Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So last night I was thinking a little bit about this subject, and especially with for UCR students, it's currently final season, finals are coming up, and I was thinking a little bit about this, and it's something that I also wanted to work on for the rest of Ramadan, inshallah, especially because we're getting to that midway point, subhanAllah, in 3 days, it's about to be the, halfway done throughout Ramadan. And so this concept was the concept of Ihsan. And for people who don't speak Arabic, Ihsan is excellence in English. It's this concept of excellence, as in excellence in the things that we do, the ibadah that we perform. And when I was thinking about this, I thought back to a lecture and to a khutbah that I heard in the past, and the Shaykh mentioned two verses. He mentioned a verse in Surah An-Nisa 458, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, where Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "Indeed, Allah commands you to return trusts to their rightful owners, and when you judge between people judge with fairness. What a noble commandment from Allah to you. Surely Allah is all-hearing, all-seeing." And then a correlated verse to that is in Surah Al-Mutataffifin, verses 1 through 3, where Allah says, وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ, woe to those mutaffifin. Woe to those who give less than due, who, when they take a measure from people, take in full. But if they give by measure or by weight to them, they cause loss. And so, in both of these verses, the one in Surah An-Nisa, Allah is explaining to us that we judge with fairness, and in Surah Al-Mutaffifin, Allah tells us that in our business transactions, we shouldn't cause loss to people, as in we shouldn't take from people unjustly, as in scam them, or we should put our full effort into the business transaction that we produce. And so I continue to think about these verses a little bit, and this generally revolves around this concept of ihsan, this concept of excellence in the actions that we perform, in being hardworking towards these, towards our business transactions. And it reminded me within that khatira that the Shaykh was giving, he mentioned a hadith by Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, where he said, "Verily Allah loves when any one of you does a job, he should perfect it." And instead of giving my own commentary on this, it was said by Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah anhu, a person who carries out his duties with perfection and sincerity is engaging in a form of worship, as long as his intention is to seek the pleasure of Allah. And so this is a direct commentary on this hadith, where it's explained that any action that we perform, as long as it's with the consciousness of Allah, in the consciousness of Allah, it's a form of ibadah. And so whether it's the work that we're doing, the exams that we're taking, whether you're an employee or you're the boss or you're doing ibadah, all of these actions, as long as they're conscious of Allah, they're forms of worship. And so that's why I was thinking about this, and I think it's this concept of ihsan, this concept of excellence, is something that I wanted to work on, because when we perfect these actions outside of ibadah, as in our work or as in the transactions that we have, then naturally we're giving a good image to Islam. Naturally we're giving da'wah, because when people see that Muslims are outside of our mosque, when people see that Muslims are the hardworking ones, they're the disciplined ones, they're the people who try their best in their work, who are fair in their work, then naturally it gives people a nice image of Islam, and people start asking questions who are curious, and naturally they learn about Islam through us. But this also applies to ourselves, because when we perfect our actions, it's a form of ibadah for us. When we're perfecting our work, whether it's in our exams, whether it's in things outside of ibadah, this is also a form of worship, and we're getting rewarded for it as well. And so I wanted to bring up a hadith also that is pretty commonly narrated, where Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you cannot see Him, know that He sees you." And so this is relating to ihsan, this concept of excellence in our ibadah specifically, where when we have excellence in our ibadah, when we have this ihsan in our ibadah, that's the highest form of khushu', right? Of concentration, of focus in our salah. And so naturally, when we have this concept, when we try our best to perfect this concept of ihsan in our salah, everything else falls in line as well. When we perfect our ibadah, everything else outside falls in line, as in, things like being an employee, or things like taking exams or doing assignments. And so generally, I wanted to just wrap it up by talking about how this concept of ihsan, when we focus on excellence in everything that we do as Muslimin, this makes our entire life an ibadah. It makes our entire life an act of worship. And so naturally, everything else falls in line. Everything becomes an act of worship. And so that's something that I wanted to put as one of my goals for the rest of Ramadan, inshallah. So may Allah make us people of ihsan, inshallah, and keep us on the straight path. And inshallah, the rest of the Ramadan is beneficial for us. And please don't forget your brothers and sisters in Muslim countries who are struggling, in Gaza, Congo, Sudan, and all the other places around the world. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum.